If it is trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors, past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Good morning. Morning. Let's grab the links first thing here. I still don't think that restream thing that's supposed to tweet for me is still not doing anything. There's the opening at the lows. That's something that can just keep going down and going down. Wait, it totally did it. It totally did it, but it gave like a useless link. Oh my gosh, that's a useless link. Oh, there they go. They really sold it. Well, that's interesting. They're not showing. It's not showing me live on YouTube, guys. It's not showing me. There I am on Twitch. So you've decided. Blah blah blah. So you've decided. So that bot is useless. It doesn't give you the links. So it says that it's sending data. So you've decided. I need to mute that. Oh no, guys, this is awful. Let's see here. I'm just going to start and stop things, right? Okay. Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Here we are. They both say that they're sending data. Now, YouTube. Oh. Starting. It says starting. It says starting. Ah, now we're live. Now we're live. Okay. Share link. There we go. Stupid thing. Well, maybe I should make it like a portal or something. You know what I'm saying? Well, in the meantime, let's turn that off. Social alerts. Okay. So anyways, opening at the lows, that's something that can keep going, except for that the E-mini looks a little high and is probably going to come back a little bit, and I'm wondering if I can get, well, okay, 80 is okay. Bitcoin doing interesting things. So you can see big move down, big move back up on maybe some news. We're recovering. They recovered quite a bit overnight. I think that there may be another attempt down towards here, or an attempt to open at 2635. The E-mini. Here in Treasuries. There's this 055 we gotta watch. So that's a point of control. I want to keep that one. And 135 POC. There's a good chance that they're going to go up to the overnight one at 115 and then to 135. But there's this one down below us too. Could do either. Could do either. Stop hunts, are they real? That's interesting that Big Mike is sending an email about that. Well, don't think I'm going to get filled. And I don't think that 085 is acceptable. No. I mean, it's close. I suppose it wouldn't be like a huge deal. But I would much rather have 08. And the market has been difficult, let's say. Well, I like that. Build at 075. One up on us. It's a little questionable because I wasn't completely in the flow when we started, you know? But when I look up here at the Vista chart, I really like it. If I could get filled at 08, that would be great, but... There we go. Good morning now. I'm seeing people filter in. I got filled, guys. Well, that 075 is getting weak in that 07 pulled, so that getting filled was maybe not necessarily a good thing. We'll have to see here. E-mini ticking a little strange, and we're getting some wild movement in the level 2. That 032 pulling. So not like a ton of volume though, so... And they're playing games. Okay. Gotta be careful because they didn't really get too far last time, did they? They did touch, looks like at least at one point I Since my DOM has been open, they've been at 0.95. And that pulled easily. But they didn't clear it when they attacked it. All three of them across the border week 2. Mm-hmm. Right, so they're testing a little bit the other way, but not a ton willing to sell. Yeah, it pulls easily. And when they pull, they really do. It looks like there's probably some ice breaking there at 0.85 though. It's still not a strong bid following it up. But it did hold that time. Well, let's not say it did hold because it could still tick back down, right? But it was better than the last tick. The last tick we could only get 900 and it almost immediately went back down. You're only getting 500 here in the 5-year. So, okay, 2,000, that's good. I like seeing 2,000. There's a 6,700 there at 0.95. It's actually been stacking up a little bit. Now the bids are stacking up at 0.85. I think the E-mini could go down for a little bit more, yeah. So because we're at the edge that we were before, gonna take one contract off. Oh, did I already get filled? Yep. Good deal. Okay. Well, there's not really a big order at 095 anymore, but we have sold quite. We have held at 09 quite a bit. Now, if the E-mini keeps going down, we may continue to see it march up a little bit. But you can see when it does go up, it's not. They're not like super. How do I put this? They don't look like super anxious to catch it. You know, like when it ticks up, they're not immediately putting 2,000 on the bid. It's kind of like robots take it, and then the E-mini holds. Well, okay, so the E-mini is trading a little bit more volume here. And they're not quite down to the target where you would expect us. I think you would expect us to get to at least 2640. So I think that we may have a little bit more. Yeah, 5-year ticked up a little bit there. There's pressure on it. There's pressure, but it's not really resulting in very many market orders. Okay, that was good. 3,000. They can just hold that. Okay, 5-year ticked up again. I'm gonna try getting out here 095 and then seeing what happens, just because I can see here that they're having a hard time getting market buys into 095. Yeah, see, there's still almost everybody that's there in line at 095. It looks like they're holding their orders and getting filled. They're not pulling it. The E-mini is at its lows. Well, it's low since we've been watching it. There they tick down. But it's not resulting in market orders. In fact, I'm at the back of the line. The thing about this is I might not get filled. I might barely get filled. Or I could get filled and they're going to plow right through me and then I'm going to be like, oh, I shouldn't have sold. I shouldn't have sold. That third one is probably the one most likely to happen. Just because, you know, they're always going to do the thing that's worst for me. Ah. 3K. Okay. Well, let's watch it do its thing. They might break out here and make it back up to 12 real fast. I don't know. But it's on the edge, and the market looks so range bound. If that happens, I don't want to be fishing for that, you know? The probability of that happening is remote enough. Not remote, but I don't think it's the most likely thing. It's uncertain. It's uncertain enough that I think it's prudent to take the profit there at the top of the range. 0.95. That's the opening range. They could take 10. That would be the last pivot. And 10 half. I mean, there's kind of steps along the way. It's just there's going to be resistance for sure. Here we go. Okay, so there's another uptick. It was pretty good, but it's not holding. Ooh, and they stacked quite a bit on it there on the downtick. Okay, there's another good uptick. That time they traded 2,000 to get through it. So, how much? It was small orders that did it. Yeah, I don't know. It's holding at 09 though. I mean, that's good for it to continue to move up. I have to say, there was a lot of resistance at 9. I expect that there's going to be a decent amount of resistance at 9.5 or 10 and 10.5, just because of the way that this ticked down. Was very slow. But if they're able to get through that resistance, that's a really strong trend. Yeah, most real traders probably use TT and auto spread it. Okay, so they tried to get up to 095. It actually went bid at one point, and now we're down, and 090 has gone offer. So there appears to be some appetite for trying to short it again. And now they go offer at 085, and 08 is pulling. And the E-mini is making a little bit of a recovery here as it does so. So I think I made the right choice. Well, of course I made the right choice. I think I traded the way that my strategy should say. We look bracketed. I took the quick profit. But my suspicion that maybe we were going to fall back down was definitely confirmed. And you see how much the ZB moved? For ZB to fall down that much, that is very... Oh, sorry, not flattening, steepening. I'm actually a little tempted to try '08 again. They sure came down fast, didn't they? Suspiciously so. I think, though, that seeing that volume, so here was when we first took it at '08, right about here, okay? And then it did move up, and now it came back. Cumulative delta is almost even. So that to me is an indication that it was almost all traders that move up. Yeah, interesting. And that doesn't tell me that it's going to continue lower or that it's going to reverse here at all or anything like that. I think it tells me that we are in a bracketed market, and at the moment it doesn't look like the really big players are really trying to make too big of a power play. Well, maybe they sell it through here and I'm wrong, but I think that the right thing to do here is to just stay out. Because if I'm right that there's the larger trend players are not really involved here, then you could see things where we make a new low for just a tick and then reverse. Well, they're doing a level break. Yeah. See, I don't like my risk reward here. Because if I do take it long at '08, or I guess I could maybe do 075 now, but that looks like that one could be a little dicey. So if I took '08, the upside reward is still only 2 to 4 ticks. If it goes down, you definitely got 4 ticks that are down to the downside to 055. So your risk reward here in this spot, even though we're at the low, is actually kind of even or negative, because honestly, if they go through 055, what's going to stop them from going even further? But I think that the probability is, given how quiet and so far bracketed we've been, I would think that the probability favors going long. But I think that I'd have to say that the probability is uncertain, because we did come back down pretty quickly, and there is a little bit of volume kind of holding it, making it look like we're going to go down through the low. So if this was trending action, I would be like, oh yeah, that's going to bust the low for sure. But because I know that they're playing tricks, today, or that it's a lot of trading day traders causing this. I'm super suspicious about everything that I see here. I know this is not encouraging words to say you're day trading, but I don't think this is an area that I want to be involved because I don't have a super clear reading on what it's going to do. And I did have a good opening trade. Yeah. Noticing a good number of people watching early. So that's good that we have that many people before 7 o'clock. So the earlier you guys start trading, the better, I think. Honestly, there's good opportunities in treasuries before the open, too. But I can't wake up that early. That would be ridiculous. I remember Fran, she would trade way before us, like starting at like 4 o'clock Eastern time or something like that. And she would trade UB, and she got great trades out of it. Like 48 ticks within seconds. Good fast moves and stuff. Yeah, see, they're trying to trade up. They're at 08. And once again, there was a bunch offered there. Now, they broke through it, so that could be a catalyst for us to move higher. I'm not sure, but that's also a level break setup. That sort of a thing, they could pull that at 0.75 and try and make a stop run happen through 0.7. And they keep ticking back down, so it's definitely something that we got to keep an eye out for. Still at 08. See, it's like the longer they sit here, really the longer they sit here, I think the better the chances are for long. But situationally, I think it just becomes more and more uncertain. Especially the way that they continue to put offers there at 08. Okay. The tick up and the 085 pulled. That's good. I guess good is not really the right word there. Means we may be pulling back. Good, because if we move up, that's technically bad for the economy, right? Could mean that the E-mania is about to go down. But that tick up didn't seem to be correlated to anything over here. I do see some pressure in especially in the Japanese yen on the down push. Looks like the currencies are responsible for a lot of this move down. They didn't really continue through to 08.5. Looks like actually 08 you might get a fill again. Yeah, I mean, they came up there, and some of the buying there it does look a little positive, but it's really tough to take this one again for me, especially with how slow it's being, and we know that 7 to 7:30 can be a tricky time. And it's super slow this morning, guys. Well, I guess it would be a good time to chat about a couple of things, yeah? Hey, actually, I got something I'm working on I want to show you guys. You ready? Here, I'll show you here. Let me go and grab it over here. Got this whiteboard here. There you go. Can you see that? So it's still a work in progress. I got to print out a bunch more stuff, but I'm making like a Democrat primary presidential tracker. And I'm actually thinking about doing like a weekly thing too. So we'll see. I'm thinking about doing it. Oh, there's an okay uptick. They actually held on that one to the 085. Maybe it's actually going to go now. I'm not seeing any super clear correlations on this, but it looks like the Treasuries are doing it on their own. Anyways, I'm thinking about live streaming a discussion about the weekly horse race on Friday nights. So if you're interested in that and you want to see, you have a preference on the time, let me know about it. Oh, you know what? I need to fix the blinds here so that you don't get the echo. Yeah. Well, it's pretty quiet. In fact, I can kind of... I don't blame people for getting bored. Sometimes trading is boring. That's just the way it is. Now they came back to 08. Like, it's just super... Man. Well, the E-mini is starting to move up a little bit again. I wonder if they're going to make a new high here. Okay, well, the treasuries are starting to look like they're going to make a new low. I don't think 07 was the previous low, yeah. So we need to see 07. We need to see 065 go bid. And they back off a little bit. This is still a really tight spot because there was a decent amount. I'd say about 10,000 contracts or so of interest in it continuing lower. So if something happens and it really becomes clear that they're not going to go lower, and at this moment I really can't tell. But if it happens, I do think there's a little bit of volume that could unwind here going back out the other direction. But I mean, man, so hard to tell. It's just a really slow market today. And honestly, when it starts at the lows, it's a little unusual for it to be that slow. So oftentimes opening at the overnight low, assuming that it's like truly the overnight low and they push lower on the first, on the open, like they did. The reason that happens is because there's a lot of algorithms that know that there's a good chance that we move lower on that. Like you get like trend lower, but we're not really getting trend, are we? It's just like a real slow, they pushed up to the upside. It was just traders. There's not really a whole lot of interest in it. It really fell down. There was a couple of people pushing down to the lows, but they're not able to make it to go. this sort of a thing. Which means that it can either, well, you could get a reversal again, potentially. It could just do the slow bubble down. Or we could start to accelerate to the downside. So I guess that downside trend, they sort of probability is still there. It's just for the risk reward for us, it's kind of hard to take that one. Unfortunate. I'm also noticing that the spread came back a little bit, because when we moved down, the knob really moved down, and now the knob is equalized a little bit, and the spread is basically back to where it was. And the E-mini is basically back to where it was as well. See, they'll kind of do this thing like they're excited, and it doesn't do anything. Well, okay. So there was a pretty decent tick up. There's a lot there at 07. And there was a big imbalance. So they might be turning around here. Yeah. That 08 should not be pulling like that. Let's try it. I'm going to give this a real short leash. Okay. So the pressure is there. They are pulling, but you're not seeing a ton of buy orders there. The E-mini is taking a little bit of a turn now. Seeing a 7K bid is usually a really good sign. Especially when it kind of builds like that. And the upticks. Okay, 075 is a little bit weaker now. It was 3,000, now it's 2,000, so it looks like the pressure kind of subsided. 800 sold, 700 bought. Okay, a little bit more buying. Good uptick. Oh. They sold back into 08 and it held, so that's good. Gonna have to play this one by ear because this could still just be a slight pullback. There's also a really good probability that we come back up to like 095 and fail it, and then come back and aren't able to get back past 08. Look at that. 085 completely pulled. But they didn't clear it. It does look though like sellers are a little scared. I think they should be. Because there's quite a bit of fuel to push this to a higher high. If it gets going here. See, if they're short from the right spot, they're probably short at 085. Short from either 085 or 09. So if 085 is able to go offer, or sorry, if 085 is able to go bid, then I think we could have something. I mean, he's still doing its slow little creep. Interesting, it's been a creep down, but there's not a lot of Ooh, okay. There was a little sell sweep there, but it held. Okay. 10-year ticks up quietly. Only 816 to clear it. Oof. Okay. 5-year upticked, and that really changed things. So now I think there's going to be some sellers trying to get out. There's a good probably 5,000 contracts still that I think need to buy. And now the E-mini is starting to get some more sell volume. Interesting. Like I said before, we got to be careful because I think that there's enough volume here to push us to a new high, but it's a kind of a situation where it may disappoint us. Oh, Ace took a trade here. What did he say? He went short 26.45.75. Oh wow, good call. How do you do that, man? What is the what indicators do you look at, or do you just look at the DOM? That's a great trade, dude. Green Day, yeah. Am I wrong? How's it going? That 095 is pulling too easily. That is the previous swing high and it's just completely pulling? There's always a probability of a lure, but I think that the last place I would be trying to lure is at the previous swing high after such a strong move. That is probably somebody that really did want to sell and they just pulled it. Have a magic 8-ball. I don't know. So there's definitely a time frame. He always catches it before the open. And there is usually not a significant change in cumulative delta when he takes it. So I'm guessing that it's probably not a super price is maybe more of a component of it than volume is my guess. But it's just a very interesting to me how he's able to see something before it happens like that. Almost every time. That's really good, dude. You've got a really good trade there. Yeah, and he's probably not going to tell us exactly what it is, because if he had something that was like that, I don't think he would want to share it. might be something so esoteric that if the larger world knew, it could get arbitraged out too easily. I'm just guessing. I can't read his mind or anything. Well, I would share it with you, but we got to do lunch. Well, I'll tell you what, you don't have to share it with me. I mean, here's the thing. I don't necessarily care about the like super specifics of somebody's strategy unless I'm like going to program it. Just because it's always like, what works for you usually doesn't work for me. But I do really want to know what the general approach is. Like if he's just using a chart or if he's watching the DOM or like those sorts of things matter because I like to be able to look at the signal that somebody else is getting and, take something from that, But we should definitely do lunch. Though I'm guessing it sounded like you were kind of more by the point of the mountain area. So we would have to do it on a weekend probably because I work downtown. Well, see, only 1,000 to clear it at 0.95. Yeah, I'm liking this so far. I'm really liking this. So now that it's over, yep, northern Utah County. Sometimes I think, so here's the thing. I live in Centerville. I lived in West Valley, and my wife really wanted to move. She didn't like the schools there and everything. And we're like, well, Davis County is really nice. Did you change anything today, or is it the same strategy? I would say that it is the same strategy today, but I feel like I'm doing a lot better today than I did yesterday. There's kind of this thing where it's like, okay, if you had a bad day, why did you have a bad day? Because sometimes when you have a bad day, it's just that your strategy is not very good for that market. You know what I mean? But sometimes the strategy is fine and the strategy actually would have done really, really well, and you're not trading it correctly or you're just making misreads, And I feel like yesterday there was some good moves, and I actually kind of saw the trades, and I screwed them up by getting the wrong spots. So I think that today I'm trading my strategy better. I think that's why I'm doing better today. And I don't know what was with me yesterday. Okay, that's my signal. I think they shouldn't be ticking down in that particular spot. Though I do think that they're going to battle it out a little bit here. Let's keep an eye on it. So, in terms of context, I think is the context today changed from Tuesday. Well, so when I talk about context, that thing is going to be different every day. And I'll tell you why. One of the things that I look at is what day it is. That's actually one of the most important things that I look at. If it's Monday, well, let me back up. Let's say that you're a retail investor that invests for years, but you're retail. You're some, I know there's not very many of them out there, but you're some rich guy that has money to burn. Okay. When are you going to buy stocks? Well, on Monday, you probably just came in over the weekend. You haven't been thinking about stocks. You haven't been thinking about business all week. And so maybe on Monday, you're just doing research. And maybe on Tuesday, you decide that you're going to do the thing. And so you go and you tell your broker, okay, I want to buy like a ton of this thing. Okay. And then on Wednesday, your broker actually goes and does it. Right? That's how the week tends to work. Another example of this outside of the trading world is that the new releases usually don't happen on Monday. Like when they release new music or video games, they very often will do it on Tuesday. That's changed a little bit now with the internet, but it used to be that everything came out on Tuesday, because if they did it on Monday, everybody had been out on the weekend and they didn't get a very good release, right? So if it's Monday, that's the context, right? People are coming in from the weekend. You might not see as much long-term trading. Wednesday, statistically, has the largest moves, statistically speaking, because it's in the middle of the week, and that's when people tend to decide to make their moves. So the context today is different from yesterday because it's Wednesday. But on the flip side of that, when I look at the action that we've had so far this morning, it does not look like a trend, does it? No, that's not a guess. I have statistics that show that the market moves more on Wednesday. If that's what you're talking about. I've done a lot of my reading in context has been what is the average range? What is the and I do a distribution profile of it, right? So what is the distribution of ranges by day? What is the distribution of ranges on certain news events? What is the distribution of ranges on the first day of the month, on the last day of the month, in January, in July? Those are the first things that I look at, right? So I'm saying one of the big things that matters today is that it's Wednesday. Okay, so that means you tend to have larger range on Wednesday. Now, the next thing is, it is January. So you tend to see more investment activity at the beginning of the year than you do through the summer. It's kind of like September through March, and especially January is like the most active time of the year. Okay, so that's the next thing. So that's why I'm a little bit more comfortable taking 3 to 4 or even letting it to run more than 4 because it's January, right? The next thing is it's the second half of January. So at the beginning of the month, you get all of the numbers and economic numbers. And so people are making decisions and adjusting things because all of the economic data changed. The second half of the month, you don't see quite as much of that. So the second half of the month is kind of more people hedging their positions as rather than speculating. So we tend to be a little bit more range bound in the second half of the month. I always tend to struggle more the second half of the month. All right. And then I'm just looking at like the daily the market profile stuff, right? So we had point of control up here, and that's kind of why I've been going long. Partly why I've been going long is because the probability is that we'll move up. But you can see here yesterday, this is a little bit disjointed over profile, isn't it? There's not like a clear distribution yesterday. Oh, good deal. They moved up again. It's not a clear distribution. So what does that tell me? We're range bound. And then again today, it was even slower and more range bound than yesterday. I think we don't see a good run today, but I believe what you say about Wednesday. Yeah, I think you're right. So this is kind of getting into the nitty gritty of it. It's like, okay, the profile from yesterday was range bound. The profile from overnight looks range bound. The action right now looks range bound. And so that's why when I see it go down to the 07 and then I saw this thing right here was really the signal. When you get 7K in a spot like that, especially when you see that 7K stacks as they tick down and up, then that was my signal to go long, right? But I don't think that all of those things those are the things that I look at every day. I don't think that those are the reasons why I didn't do so well yesterday. I think the reason that I didn't do so well yesterday was that I was not focused enough on getting the right price. You know, in this today, I did 8 both times, 2 ticks away from the low. A good price that I could get filled at, but was still really good risk reward wise. Can you imagine if I had been buying 085 or 09 and maybe getting a tick and then having it come back down on me? That's kind of more where my edge is. That's why trading in CN tends to work better for me. Do icebergs work today because of Wednesday context? So no. Yes and no. I do think that icebergs are working pretty okay today. Although we haven't really seen a huge one at the high and low, have we? We saw some when they were going down at 07. It looked like somebody was trying to sell some for a move lower. So that's kind of like a failed level break trade. You get that, like you'll get 5K for them to try and do a level break, but then they never do it, and then it ticks up, and then that kind of pushes it up, and that can be a good signal. But on Wednesday, because we tend to have the ranges more, the bigger the range, the less likely that fading an iceberg is going to work. Does that make sense? So that's part of why I was super careful. Like I didn't buy 07.5 the first time it stepped down there, because I knew, even though it looked really range bound, I knew that it was Wednesday. So it was like being, also the fact that we opened at the lows and they had sold so much on the open, it kind of had me weary. And that's actually also a little bit why I think I took 09.5 there, because that was just the top of the overnight range and I didn't want to risk more than that. Okay, do you have your stats published for equities treasuries posted somewhere, or can you? No, but what I did was I took the indicators that I developed those stats from and I put it on futures.io. Like I took out all of my actual tests, because I made like a whole framework where you can take this indicator and extend it to test the specific thing that you want. And I have 2 of them. One's a distribution profile, and one is just something that shows you the probability so that you can run it over 2 years or whatever it is. So you should be able to go and take that indicator, and I'm pretty sure I put it in the elite forum. But if you don't have access to it and you'd like those indicators, just message me and I'll send them to you. But you could take those indicators and you could very, very easily recreate those stats if you wanted to. My ID on Futures.io is TWDSJE. Yeah, I know. It was a long time ago. And I just picked something that was not going to be taken. But it's called Stat Suite. And I think it's in the elite section. Yeah. Actually, I think hold on here. I can just, let's see here. NinjaTrader 8. Export. No, maybe. Ninja script export. Stats. That's it right there. We just import that zip file into NinjaTrader. Anyways, so the point is, you could use that to make your own stat and find your own things, because that's kind of the whole point, right? Is to kind of not necessarily to trade the way that somebody else trades, but to learn the way that you can make up your own strategy. Yeah, no problem. And so the thing is if you have any trouble using it, or you want some help making a stat, you can message me and I will absolutely help you make the stat, because I always learn things when I do that for people. So that's kind of why I made it available to everybody, was partly to get people to go, oh, okay, here's a way that I can make my own stats, but then also so that people would ask me about it and I could, get some ideas. Well, the E-mini was buying pretty good there so far. The open. And while Smash the Bid says your theories is just crazy, man. I mean, there is a lot of discretion involved in the way that I trade, for sure, right? But there are stats that back up most of the trades that I take. I don't know what he's saying. Like, the thing that I think is interesting, and he says the same thing happens at every turn. I'm not exactly sure what he means by that, but if there was anything that you took out of listening to me watching me trade, or if there's anything that you could take away from my experience in trading, it's that the same thing does not happen at every turn. The market goes through phases where it'll do one thing, and then all of a sudden it will change and it'll do something else. Okay. Icebergs is probably the easiest example to use. The market will go through a time period where you'll get up to the high or the low, and there will be an iceberg sitting there up at the top, and they won't be able to get through it, and it'll reverse. And you can take that and fade it every time and make money. The market will go through a phase like that, several weeks, where that signal can be really, really useful. And then what happens is all of the robots, well, I don't know if this is my theory on why it happens, is the robots start to figure out that that's what's happening, and so they find ways to take advantage of it. So then it'll go through a period where you'll see the iceberg, and it will go through the iceberg every time for like 2 ticks, and then it will reverse on you. Right? They start getting tricky. Or they'll go through a time period where the icebergs will show up trying to stop price, and they'll just bust through it and bust through it and bust through it and bust through it. And that's what ends up in resulting in the trend day. Right? And it goes through phases. Yeah, well, the thing is Smash the Bid has never really told us how he trades, so I don't really know. So the thing is so like if they're in Discord and they have like the elite moniker next to them, that means that they've been active in the chat and they've shown me stats enough for me to know generally what kind of a strategy they're doing and that they're worth listening to. That's all that means. It doesn't mean that they're always profitable. So everybody has their bad times, right? For sure. But anyways, so as I was saying, it's not all guesswork, right? There's a bunch of stats, and the guesswork is kind of more on what stat matters right now. You know what I mean? So you got to have some theory about why that is for you to be able to make a decision as to whether or not that particular thing matters at this time or not. Like, we know that there tends to be more market movement on Wednesdays because that's when people tend to make the bigger investing decisions because they don't want to do it at the start of the week. Okay. Well, does that matter today? Because we're in the middle of a range. We're at like super key long-term levels, and we've been seeing order flow in both directions. And the action so far has been really range bound. So I'd have to say that Wednesday thing doesn't matter as much. Like we don't want to be looking for a trend. We should keep in mind that it's probably lurking out there, but the context of that matters more than the Wednesday. Yep. The same thing happens at every turn. If we're going up, bids have to release in order to come back down. Doesn't matter how much is traded, etc. If bids don't release, then we keep going up. Wednesday weekly options. So I never considered that, but that could definitely be a thing. There's definitely, especially when the ZN futures expire, that you tend to see some interesting stuff, and that's when you see the biggest icebergs, is when the options are expiring. So keep an eye on that. Yeah, so that's where I'm just gonna say I just don't agree with you on that smash the bid, because you're right in that in order for there to be a reversal of some sort, there needs to be some change in the order flow, sure. But the way that it happens, there's multiple ways that it can happen. One way that it can happen is that since we're moving up right now, and if we get a reversal here, one way that can happen is that a large amount of passive sellers at 10 are just too much, too big for the buyers to get through. And then those buyers become sellers and they have to sell and we come down. That's what happened earlier when we came back down really, really fast back to 0.75. I think that's what happened. To some extent, was that everybody that had gotten in the trade took it off, basically, and it came back real fast. Right? But another way that it could happen is that a bunch of market sellers just happen to show up at 0.95 and sell it down, and then start offering liquidity and pushing it down and whatever, right? Somebody could choose to make a trade at that point. They could choose to do it passively or actively, right? That's the mix-up, right? Because then you could see somebody on the offer, but then maybe the guy making the trade is actually the buyer, and then the buyer overwhelms him. I mean, you can have a situation where there's a lot of people that are looking to sell at 10, and there's some really big monster that just decides that he's going to push it down through further, right? And what I'm saying is there tends to be patterns as to how that plays out. So when the market gets really active, this level break thing, which is where, we'll come up here to the 10.5 is like the key point. It'll tick up and you'll see like 3,000 to 5,000 get absorbed at 10. And then that bid will stack up and they will try and create a stop run through 10.5 and 11. Right? The more trending that we are, the more that you see that happen. If it's a trend day, you see that action, take it every time. That is the best trade, is on a trend day, the level break. I've made more on that than almost anything else, I think. Okay. But when it's not doing that, kind of more like the May time period, then, or at least this was what it was last year. Okay. Around May of last year was when you started to see the icebergs at the top and it started to push it down. So the whole point here is that you need to be able to understand the context and the cycles of the markets and adjust your strategy according to the markets. And that's why so many retail traders fail, because they think that, okay, the signal is that when I see an iceberg, I fade the iceberg. And they do that for a couple of weeks, and it works really, really well. And then the market changes. You get into a trending time period, and that stops working, and they don't adjust their strategy because we tell them you've got to be consistent. So sometimes you've just got to take the loss because it doesn't work. And so then you lose everything that you made. And by that point, usually people are like sizing up and everything, so then they end up losing more on the downside. That, in my opinion, is the biggest impediment to retail traders becoming long-term successful. At least that has been the biggest impediment for me. And it's only now, after having been through that cycle 3 times, that I've realized what the sorts of things that tend to matter on that. So then, I mean, obviously, there are trades that you can find that are always going to be consistent. Those ones are usually going to be super, super small. A lot of those have been arbitraged out, and there's high competition for them, so they're very hard to find. I wouldn't be surprised if our friend Ace has something like that, because it sounds like he's been doing it for a long time, and it's been really consistent. So I don't know. But most of us aren't going to find that. Most of us aren't going to find that. And so you need to understand when your strategy works and when it doesn't. Yeah. That's how I think of it. Anyways, I don't know if you've seen Bag Holder Quotes, but it's some funny trading schnafafood. I have to go and look him up. That's on Twitter, I'm guessing, right? Anyways, I've done a lot of yapping. I enjoy the questions, and I am happy that there's a good number of people. But mostly, I'm happy that I was able to overcome my bad trading from yesterday. Did I overcome my bad trading from yesterday? I almost don't want to look. I thought yesterday was really bad, but I think that it was ultimately only... Maybe it was more than that. Yeah, it was more than that. So it was half of what it was. That was... I lost 5 ticks if I had stopped trading after 3. But I was trading a sim account that day, and so I kept going. Yeah, he says yes, so that was on Twitter. I don't know. One thing you gotta say about another thing, that since we're talking about it, because interesting people will come into chat, you know what I mean? And there are some people that you gotta, I wonder, when you're doing badly, they're always talking. And then when you're doing well, they disappear. You notice that? Just saying. Something to make you chuckle when you're not trading. Reserve was trying to sell 26, and he missed it. That would have been a good one. It's a good catch. That would have been a good catch. I really wish that I could see the spots in ZB the way that I do in ZN. But I have such a hard time. It's like any time that I see one of those spots, and I think, this is where I get filled, it'll sit there forever. What does smash the bid mean when he says the same thing happens every turn? If we're going up, bids have to release in order to come back down. It doesn't matter how much is traded, etc. If bids release, we keep going up. Smash the bid says, what does he mean, please? I believe what he's saying is that in order for price to move, the number for price to move up, the number of market buyers have to overwhelm the number of market sellers. Period. In order for us to move down, the number of market sellers have to overwhelm the number of market buyers. So on a tick-by-tick basis, that's definitely what you will see, right? But I'm just saying, when you look at a turn, it's a little bit more complicated than that, right? It could move down because we came up to this spot and then nobody else was interested in selling '09. And so they all just give up and sell and we come all the way back down. Or it could be that they were really interested in buying '09, but there was just way too many limit sellers there and it overwhelmed them, right? Or it could be that another player came in and sold it through at '09. And you know, these are all things that cumulative delta will kind of tell you, right? We went down, we came back up. That's an indication to me that the number of participants that are in this market hasn't changed. And that's why if I was taking a trade, I would continue to be looking at playing this range, although I think I would probably still prefer long. You know what I mean? So I think that's what he means. So I'm going to type this, what I just said, in Discord now for those that aren't listening. The bids have to show weakness to come back down? Nope, not true. Not true. Not true. You've never seen somebody buy through 2 6K bids? I've seen it, man. It fucking happens. It's crazy when it happens. It can happen. I remember bids have to release. Well, he's saying that they have to pull, which isn't true. You've never seen a collision? That's what it's called. When was it? There was this day. I wish I could remember when it was. I really wish I could remember when it was. But there was this day where we were pushing up towards a high. Kind of like today where we've been pushing down through a low. It was a really range-bound market. And this was on buying, and this was like a year and a half ago or something like that. It was when we were kind of moving up before that big sell happened later in the year. All right. What's on the other side of those 6 bids? It's not just 2 prices. Well, anyways, so there was like a 7K and a 7K or an 8K and an 8K sitting there. And we're like, I don't know, guys, maybe those orders are going to pull. And then what happened was they came up, market buy, and they just sold through both of them. They just bought through both of them. And then the market continued trending up for another like 16 ticks. So it doesn't, for a price to move up, it doesn't mean that the sellers have to pull. Sellers pulling increases the probability of it going up. But remember, there's 4 forces. If there's 4 forces, that means that there's like 8 different ways that it can happen. Well, it's not just 2 prices. In the 10-year, I care mostly about these 2 prices. But you can definitely see something where they buy through 2 prices and then it causes a stop run. And so you can see, I've seen situations where there was significant absorption across 4 prices and they still went through it. Can happen.
So, I don't know. It's a lot more complicated than the same thing happens at every price. I mean, in a way, that's true, I guess. But I don't think that's particularly helpful to somebody that's just learning how to trade. Hmm. This is getting interesting because there's been a pretty decent amount of buying through here, especially in the 10-year. But they weren't able to get to a new high. They've been coming up to this 10 several times. They might break out through the high. I think that they still probably want to make a run at 11.5. That point of control is going to get really attractive. I think that they might want to go to 15.5, but if I was going to take a trade long, I would be really wary about doing it at 10 unless I was certain that it was about to happen. Hmm. Okay, he says at every turn, bid limits have to press and sell limits have to release. Point blank. Period. No, nobody has to do anything, but you will tend to see weird things, especially if you are seeing further than 10 prices out. Although I'm not entirely convinced that seeing prices more than 10 prices out in treasuries really matters. But a lot of that action that you see is just robots, right? And you gotta be careful about the robots because robots are predatory. Yeah. Yeah, John's got a good point there too. Like, everyone likes to use their own terms to describe it. It makes it confusing for noobs. Yeah. Well, that's why I think it's easiest to talk about market buyers, market sellers, limit buyers, limit sellers, because everybody knows what that means. Because you can't enter orders without that. But the problem here, and it's with trading, and here's it was the same thing that we were talking about earlier. Everybody's going to have a different strategy. I don't know why, but some people find it very difficult to watch somebody else trade because they'll see their signal and then the other person trading isn't doing what their signal is, and then it's like, you're doing the wrong thing, and they can't handle it. And then when they end up being wrong and the other person ends up being right, they just kind of, you know, then you start getting into your own confirmation bias and the way that people handle those the cognitive dissonance sort of a thing. You know what I mean? Everybody's going to come up with a different strategy. But I think that the way that you come up with a good strategy is the same, right? You watch, and that if you want a really good discourse on this, go look at the Jigsaw Trading website, and he has a thing about journaling and stuff, and he says just watch the market, pick something that you think happens, and just watch it, and keep a journal about every time that you see that thing and what it does. And then after you've done that for 2 weeks and you've come up with a theory on how to take advantage of that behavior, then you can trade it. And you trade it over 20 trades and you see how well it does, right? And then you continue tracking it over the course of multiple years and make notes about what times of the year it doesn't seem to work very well, and what times of the year it does seem to work well. That's, I think, what you got to do to become profitable long term. And that's why most retail traders doing this on their own, it takes them 3 years. It's because that's enough market cycles for them to realize when their strategy works and when it doesn't. We used to refer to lifting the offer or hitting the bid. John Grady is the guy. There's definitely multiple people out there teaching order flow. I think that Peter Davies has a lot of really good observations and concrete examples of using order flow, especially in the E-mini. But if you want to understand what's going on in the level 2, I haven't seen anywhere else where someone tries to kind of explain the game that's going on like John Grady does. You know? And the thing that's so great about John, he does give you a couple of setups, but he's not giving those setups as like you should always take these and these are profitable things, right? Because he acknowledges in the book, he says, hey, here's a flipper, but sometimes the guy just keeps buying through it and then you lose. So he not only does he acknowledge that it doesn't always work, but he explains when it doesn't work so that you can kind of watch it, because there's a metagame to it. It's like a metagame. It's like if everybody knows that icebergs tend to hold right now, then the metagame to get an advantage over everybody is to just really size up and push through the iceberg to stop everyone out. Right? Mm. See, they're still they pierced it for a tick. They did touch 10.5, 203 contracts, but they did touch 10.5. But then we're back down already. And you're even actually seeing a lot of selling into it too. You've still got an offer at 26. Yeah, I've kind of tried to change my mentality about no fills. To me, I mean, obviously it's always pointing. Ooh, man, the E-mini is looking strong. You could actually maybe sell treasuries here, but I'm not so sure that I want to do that. It's still not really giving me a... I've never read a book about order flow, to be honest. The book that I've had recommended to me, but I haven't gotten to reading yet, was like Market Microstructure or something to that effect. But the No BS day trading is kind of like an ebook that you read. So if you haven't checked out the No BS day trading one, you gotta read that, man. It's like $70. Has to happen, has to be. Watch me get filled now and it blow up 3 to 5 ticks. Yeah. I don't know. The E-mini has been moving up, and we've kind of been going flat, if not pressuring the highs. You want a good trading strategy, go to the CFTC press release page and look at what people are getting fined for. Don't do that, guys. Don't do something illegal. Okay, free to go up. Hey, no, it went down. Like now, I can get tilted when I don't get filled, I think, but I always say that's a good thing because that means that your read on the price was correct. It was so correct that you didn't get filled. It's a good thing. If we're in really trending market action, which we aren't right now, but if we were, like, when were we really trending? It's been a while. Maybe at the beginning of the month. Let's say, like, if it was at the beginning of the month and you didn't get filled, then maybe I would mark it in at the next price and be like, let it go, you know? You really knew it was going to go. But you may notice I do that a lot. I'll have something, a limit order, and I don't think it's going to get filled, so I do the market order at the next price. And that hasn't been working out very well for me, so... Zerv is looking for that 14 to 16 area? That's ambitious. That's a little ambitious. I think it seems like the E-mini would really need to jump up here, don't you think? You're missing the point. I'm not saying to do illegal shit, but that's how the market works. Yeah. Well, you can certainly go in and look at what's you could try and find people that are maybe doing something illegal and try and take advantage of that activity for sure. Something I've been wondering a lot lately. Yesterday was a good example. And see, so there's your 22. So for me, I can't say if it's going to go more than that. the spread has room to go up. That's for sure. But like yesterday, I think was a good example. There was right at the open, in fact, there was a big offer, and they market bought it, and then almost immediately afterwards, somebody market sold it. Or sorry, there was like blocked, so it was like more than 5,000. Right? You guys remember that? And it was like, okay, it seems like there are two big sides here that both kind of want to do something, right? And then yesterday there was two big pieces of news that happened. One was that the news came out that the Americans were canceling a meeting to talk to China about trade for some reason. And the other one was that there's going to be some sort of a vote in the Senate about the government shutdown. And so you have to, I wonder, and I wonder this all the time. Sometimes when I see those kinds of trades that just seem really bizarre and insistent like that, very often news comes out later and I have to wonder if somebody knows about it before everybody else does. And that's what's going on. I don't think any of that's happening today, though. Today has just been like crazy. I mean, really think about it. We may come out of this eventually, but like the opening range has been 7 to 10. It's been less than 8 ticks. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's been less than 8 ticks. That's why I say when we're range bound, if you got 3 to 4, you got lucky. Well, you got lucky, but you might not. It might be too much to be asking for more. You get out at 22 I think he's going to hold it for the long term, but 26 to 22 would have been a great trade. It's $125 right there. So it's been continuing. It's continued to be up here. Now we're getting to 815. So I have some stats. I'm not exactly sure what the mechanisms are behind this, but there is a tendency between 815 and 830 to reverse. So I found this by just John first told me about it, but then somebody wanted to do this strategy where they were like, give me the moving average, but take like the average of the last 5 days and tell me what it was. And for the most part, it's just random noise. Except for that 815 to 830 time period, there seems to tend to reverse. So maybe there's a short here. So we've been moving up. So if it was going to happen, If you like that short at 26 serve, you're going to love it at 30. Oh, don't say things like that. We want him to get it. E-mini is moving down a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, we're in the time frame for it. Hmm. See, like that, there is some size there at 11, but it's not. I don't know. It has been reacting to the upticks, and that's the thing, too. Yeah, I think we only imagine that we know something, but in reality, we do not know what. We would not be here. We only have more luck on some days and less on others. The problem is that if we win, we are heroes and know everything, and if we lose, the markets are to blame or the others. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, John is saying that everything else is looking bullish. Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay, so 10 half looks really balanced. 11 is pulling a little bit. It seems like that 11 is stacked a couple of times and pulled a couple of times, and so it's kind of hard for me to predict what it's going to do. But I think that if they decide to buy through it, they probably would get through it. I'm just not so sure that there's really the desire for them to do so. Okay, well, that was a pretty significant sell in the E-mini. But that only just takes us back to the open price. So we can't read too much about that. Hmm. 30 materials to become an expert in order flow trading. I didn't really have books in there though. The only book I've ever heard was the market microstructure book. But that's just kind of where it's like, there's definitely a lot of things that you can learn about order flow from books, but the best thing you can do is watch it, of course. Be careful. One of the things that I think Zerb Trump tweets, man, those are the real problem. Okay, they're really sold there now. Now they're selling below the open. Did anybody in our equity indexes channel take a trade off of that? Hmm. You had took it long earlier, but not much since then. Downtick. They're a pretty solid downtick. In fact, they're at 10.5. According to the order, the traders place their spoof orders with the intent to create the false appearance of market death, which they knew would and did create the impression of greater buying. Or, well, yeah, that's kind of the thing, is that it's there's no real way for us to know if it's real or not, is there? Benefit from the artificial prices caused by the manipulation, for sure. But how do you know when it's real and when it's not? Other than that they traded into it, of course, because by that point it's too late. I mean, I don't know. It has been over the whole morning. I mean, just imagine, I bought it at 08. I could have held it this whole time for 9. Or no, what was it? 8. For 8 ticks. Yeah, but that's not accurate. He says one side has to release in order for price to turn. Not necessarily true. they could both get filled. And then one ends up being bigger than the other one in the end. And then you would never actually see something in the level 2. You would just see price get pushed too far, and then a bunch of people, and then you'd see pukes. That's often what happens when, like, something like we're slowly ticking up and they're putting pressure on them, and then all of a sudden from 20, if all of a sudden we saw a big buy, somebody puking, that's either news or somebody just got pushed too far and they bailed. Another thing that I think is interesting is sometimes you'll see there's a big order and then it completely pulls. And so everybody starts buying into it. And then that much volume ends up trading there anyways. In that perhaps it didn't actually pull. Perhaps they just converted it to a refreshing order or something like that. You just can't see the whole picture. It's okay, though. I tried to explain it. Well, if you're going to come into chat, so here's the thing. People can say whatever they want, and they can trade however they want, and that's fine, and everybody should try and find their own thing. But if you're going to come and make claims like that, you can't see the whole picture. Here's the way that things are. You better have something that proves that you have some edge in there, right? Like, if you're gonna say that, then you better be able to come and show me like a year's worth of trades, because from my recollection from you talking before, what you're saying is you can see bids and offers that are being placed further than 10 ticks out, and you believe that they seem to show some significant edge on that, and you can see them stacking and pulling at the prices further out, and that's why you seem to think that. So maybe it's true or maybe it's not, but why am I supposed to believe somebody that's just coming in and running their mouth off? Everybody knows that what I do, maybe there's some edge to be found in it, but there's still problems with it because they watch me and they know they can see exactly what my thought process is, and they know that I'm wrong sometimes and when I'm wrong. You don't have any stats. Like, we don't know squat about how well that works for you. Don't know a damn thing. And for somebody to come in and they say that and then they don't back it up makes me think you're full of shit. And I'll tell you why. Because if you truly had an edge like that and you were willing to talk about it, usually that person says, oh yeah, totally, because I want to be useful and helpful, because we've had good traders come in and that's the way that they are. And they say, oh, okay, here's kind of my stats to show you that this is something to be worth watching, right? And they do it. Now, if you weren't willing to do that, why would you tell anybody about it at all? If it's something that you can't completely let everybody in on, then why are you telling us? Because it feeds your ego or something? Hey, look, they are moving up there. I think they might continue going through. And that's not good for Zerv's trade, though. I hope he took it off. Anyways, at that point, maybe you do have something, but I'd rather you just not tell us. Because if you're not going to tell us anything that's actually going to be useful, then all you're doing is wasting everybody's time on your comments. But I suppose that you get to hear somebody on the internet talk about you, and that feels good, I guess. I don't know. That was an interesting turn in the E-mini. It definitely pushes up. The thing, though, is I don't think the treasuries really want to go up. One of the 10s. Yeah, that's a good point. This is still like it's been very slow. The amount of cumulative delta change hasn't been that significant. This looks to me like it's moving mostly because of the E-mini. Yeah, you don't want to know how much of that down move I caught. You took another one short? Or did you hold it that whole... You didn't hold it that whole time, right? It's not that first one that you had. I think that first one, you just caught the down move and then walked away, wasn't it? When was that? It was a long time ago. I remember that. It was almost though. It was over an hour ago. So did you take a second one, Ace? He took another one. I gotcha. It's kind of interesting when the E-mini does it, because to me that was okay. They bought it up and nobody was really interested in taking it any further, so they just flipped around and started selling it. And you gotta wonder, I always wonder, at what point do you know that they've got bored with it? Because the E-mini market is so big, somebody can just pop up out of nowhere, you know? Got the market moving like my money. I mean, in retrospect, I could have held. This is one of the... and I'm saying you're full of hot air. I think he's talking to Smash the Bed there when he said that. Me? Well, we're going to have a conversation when we have lunch, because I'm offended. Anyways. Just kidding. So I took it at 08, right? When was the last one that I took it at? It was at 727. Oh, that was 727 was when I closed it. Ow. So that was a long time ago. Yeah, he was talking about Smash a bit. Okay, so it would have come back to my 08 several times. Twice. But it never would have gone through it. So that's one of those... that just shows when you catch the right price. Sometimes there's a little bit of luck involved, but today that was like really my focus, and it looks like I caught the right price. But I'm okay that I took it off at 9.5 twice. That's fine, because I didn't know that if it was going to actually go up and do that one. And this is when it comes like that, and it comes back 3 ticks several times going up, and it's only coming up like four ticks. Those are bubble ups. Those are really hard to trade, you know? Like order flow can't tell you that far into the future that it's just going to keep bubbling up. That's what's so hard about it. James Dalton, Markets in Profile English.pdf. Was that his second book? Yes, it is. So his first book, which is called... why am I having a brain fart here? Now I have to look it up. And when I see it, I'm going to be like, what's wrong with me? Mind Over Markets. That's right. Mind Over Markets. His first book, Mind Over Markets, is, I think, the New Testament of trading literature. That book is an absolute requirement to read. You might not take trades off of it. You might not be terribly relevant to your trading, but it is so dominant in the way that day traders think about markets. It is absolutely an essential reading. Just absolutely essential thing to read. It was a big sell in the 5-year, by the way. This is an interesting. CB is working on some unfinished auctions from the overnight session. Anyways, I think that was everything that I wanted to say there that you guys said. I'm glad we had a good chat. Obviously, it's because I got a good trade, which may or may not necessarily be a big deal. My conspiracy theories. I don't really talk too much about conspiracy theories as it relates to the trade, do we? But I definitely am always kind of suspicious about what's going on, aren't I? That 30 years sold there too. Wow. That might be all she wrote. I don't know. I see that and it makes me think like, huh, but why don't you really see it in the 10-year? And it's not as significant. I mean, it's 1,000, not even 1,000 contracts in ZB. 3,000 contracts in ZF. It's not super significant. We'll see. 11.5 was the target, was like the long-term target. That was like, if I had really kept it at 8, I would definitely be taking it off at 11.5 or 12. So I can't really say what it's going to do any further. But I need to write my notes now. So I will. So if you guys got any closing comments, put them in now, and I will take care of them before I close down the stream. Oh, no explanation. So I talked about the whiteboard a little bit earlier, but I think that was maybe before you came in. But I'm thinking about doing a live stream on maybe Friday. I don't know. It kind of depends on what evening is people prefer the best. But for me, the easiest would be Friday. Might also do it Tuesday. To talk about the Democrat primary. So this is my whiteboard here. I can give you the whole thing. Yep. You can see I got ones for Beto and for Elizabeth Warren, and I need to get Kamala Harris on there and the Gillibrand. Is that what her name is? Anyways, I'm going to print out their names too, and I kind of track where I think the primary is in terms of like who's doing well and stuff, and just kind of use that as a visual aid for like a discussion. But it's still like a work in progress. Like I think I need a better webcam first before, because when you're looking at it like full screen, it doesn't look very good, does it? So there's still some work, but that's where it's going. So let me know what you think about that. It'd be fun. I really love politics, so I think it'd be fun. But it also seems like something that could like get out of hand really quickly, couldn't it? Yeah. We need Apple and XLF to press down here for another push down on the SPY. Yeah. I'm not so... I mean, they pushed down to the previous day's point of control. So even though that was a pretty decent sell there in the E-mini in terms of like the size of the move and everything. Ace says it looks fine, thanks. I do really want to get a slightly better cam though, and lighting, and get some better lighting. I don't know, we'll see. Anyways, but even though it was a big move down, because we're only coming to the point of control, it's not like that super negative. I think it would have to make it a little bit further for it to really, yeah. Just make sure you do what you love. Don't turn a web podcast into another full-time job. He's still short. That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is that we're only at neutral. So if you think that the setup today is really negative and we're really going to sell, then of course you would want to hold it. But I can't. I don't have that kind of a read. Yeah, I don't. That's the whole thing, is I don't want it to be turn into too big of a thing. But I do really like the whole journaling thing. Like, I like being able to come back and watch what I was thinking at a particular time in the markets. And I did this with something else too. It was a game, and it was in development, and we had a podcast where we gave our thoughts on the changes in the game and stuff. And that game is now defunct, and they abandoned it. And so it's interesting for me to go back and look and be able to pinpoint like the points or where things went wrong and what everybody was thinking at the time, And I wish that I could have done that for the last election cycle, because the last election cycle was really weird, of course. And I was the whole time, most of the time, I was just thinking, well, this Trump guy is really interesting to watch, but I don't know if he can actually pull it out. And then at some point, it seemed inevitable to me that he was going to win. But everybody else stayed skeptical for a much longer time. So I felt like I came around to Donald Trump winning and possibly having a good chance at winning the presidency a lot earlier than many other people did. But I don't have any record of that. I can't see like, when did I make that change and how did I come to that, conclusion and stuff. I don't remember anymore. I think these are the things 100 years from now. I hope that YouTube sticks around. That 100 years from now, somebody can watch this and go, okay, this is what was happening in markets, because we can see there was a day trader and this is what he thought about it. Anyways, but I don't want it to take up too much of my time, unless it's like tons of people are watching. We'll see. It'll be interesting because there's not a ton of people out there to watch day trading. We're kind of a small community, but there's a lot of interest out there in politics. So Maybe it takes off, maybe it doesn't. We'll see. And I'd like to do it live because then we can have discussions, but I have enough content that I would be able to just record it straight through if I didn't have to. Between March 2013 and January 2014, Simonian allegedly engaged in a pattern of activity in which he entered a large manual orders in silver futures contract without the intent to trade. Yeah. Yeah, well, those things definitely happen, but the problem with that is that everybody knows about it now. There's so many robots out there. Like, that's the thing, is you really got to... You can see something, but I think half of the battle is determining if what you see was actually a person doing something rather than an algorithm doing trying to trick you. And that only matters because if it's a human, then it's going to be more significant of a thing. Because the humans, they tend to have one way they're taking it, and they just take it until they get it, you know? Which he paid with pocket change. But then the other side of it is that when they put them on there, you don't know if he's trying to trick you. You don't know if he's trying to trick you because he wants people to think that it's going to go up there, and so he's buying it, or if he wants people to think that it's not going to get there. You know what I mean? That's where it's just the existence of a large order. There are situations, for sure. Like, remember the first time that we went below 3% and we came down, and then all of a sudden a huge, ginormous offer showed up. And I sold it. Everybody sold it, really. And then they just careened down. And then after a while, they actually came up, and I think they actually ended the day above 3% or whatever it is, right? That one's obvious. That happens, sure. But sometimes a big order just shows up, like, up there on the high, and like the way that the market reacts to it when it shows up, and the way that the market reacts to it if it disappears or if it moves, or like changes. There's no consistent behavior with the markets on those sorts of things. That doesn't mean that there's not an edge in trading those, but it's a complex thing because you're talking about something where it's like, okay, there's one situation where the big order shows up, and there's two things that the market can do based off of that. They could start selling, or so they could start buying off of it, right? And then there's another situation. So it shows up, then there's one where it stays there, and then there's one situation where it disappears or it moves, right? So now you've got four scenarios, right? And then, there's a situation when it stays where they get up to it and they trade through it. There's a collision. And there's a situation where they get up to it and they're not able to pierce it or even get into it, right? So now there's two more scenarios. So now there's 6 different ways that it happens. So when you just seeing an order showing up there, it's very situational as to whether or not it's actionable, right? If you look at the order book too much, you'll make emotional decisions. Well, that's definitely true. I definitely make emotional decisions, don't I? I have a very strong tendency to just completely tilt. Yeah. Anyways, it's 8:53 now, so I'm going to head out. That was a good comment, don't worry, away. It's something to think about because I think there's some serious edge in the order book, but it can really mess you up sometimes too. Anyways, I will catch you guys tomorrow. We can keep talking about this.